Welcome to SpoonFull of Strength, a podcast for people with chronic illness and the ones who love them.
The compassion that you guys have really shines through.
Rachel and Tina cultivate a sense of comfort.
It was such a rewarding experience.
They were great hosts.
It was amazing. You are so kind.
SpoonFull of Strength has given us this great platform.
They were so welcoming.
Here are your hosts, Rachel and Tina.
Welcome to this week's episode of Spoonful of Strength. Our guest that'll be joining us here in just a little bit is Charu, and she will be sharing her journey with PBC and autoimmune hepatitis. But before we jump on with her, Rachel and I will be chatting a bit about maneuvering through the emotional roller coasters that many of us who live a daily life of chronic illness can often go through. Rachel, how are you doing today, Rachel?
I am doing all right. I am. We had a pretty lazy weekend, which is good because today was kind of busy with PT, and my son is moving Wednesday. And so I'm going to be the director of moving because I can't really carry stuff. But so Wednesday is going to be crazy, but the rest of the days will be quiet. So I'm looking forward to this week of kind of the both ends of the spectrum of being busy and being quiet. Mm-hmm. What about you?
It was a busy weekend up at the camper, and we only have till the end of October. So the camping and boating season are almost ready to wrap up, which doesn't seem possible. It seems like we just opened up there this week. There you go. Yeah. Which was in beginning of May. But so I'm looking forward to a little less travel, although you know me, and that, I'll still be going all over the place with flyball tournaments and stuff. I just won't be going up to New York on a regular basis. But so you sent me something this morning, circling back to our topic of the emotional roller coaster. And I know how difficult it can be. So you sent me a clip that you recorded last week when you were struggling after one of your doctor's appointments.
Yeah.
And it was hard to listen to, only, because obviously it's somebody that coming from someone that I'm close to and have seen how things have been over the last few years for you. But it was also, I think, a really important piece to share. So let's have a listen here to Rachel's recording about some struggles that she had last week.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about an experience I had yesterday. This episode we're doing today is all about the emotional roller coaster. And I definitely have been through the roller coaster these last few days and wanted to talk a little bit about that just because I know we all go through this. But I had a neurology appointment yesterday, and I came prepared with a list of questions and symptoms I've been having. The last couple months have been extremely difficult for me going through surgery and my strength not coming back as well with my shoulder, and was just hoping for some support. And I went into the appointment and I asked about my blood work. My blood work had come back and I was low, very low on calcium and protein. And I wasn't sure what that meant. And I asked and the response coming back was, we'll check it in 6 months. And I thought, okay, well, maybe a simple vitamin might help or anything like that. So I kind of just, thought, okay. And so then I said, well, I have been having really bad restless leg in one leg. Yeah. Okay. Well, what else you got? And, okay, well, I took my monthly shot on Saturday night, and Sunday and Monday, I had a lot of dizziness and extreme fatigue. And well, yeah, that can happen. And I'm going through all of these, things that have been bothering me. And I don't know what I was hoping to hear, but, everything I said was pretty much just, okay, what else? And at the end, she turned to me and she said, "You have MS and you have a lot of damage. There are a lot of things that I am not going to be able to help you with." And this is not the first time that I've left a neurology appointment feeling defeated. And I realized that statement put me back in my place, as far as I feel like I'm living in a world where I tend to feel like things are not as bad as they really are. I don't ever want to be in a position where I feel like I'm seeking attention, or I am wanting people to acknowledge, "Oh, look at me, I have MS. Look how bad of shape I am." No, I'm showing my best face, and I'm trying to minimize what I know in my heart. And so to walk out of that appointment again, feeling like, man, this is really bad. Like, all of these things that I'm hoping to go in and get a magical fix for, can't be helped. And it brought me to a point of realizing where I'm actually at in this disease. And understanding that I'm not being a drama queen. I'm not being dramatic. I'm not, trying to make things seem worse. And I'm actually doing myself an injustice of not understanding where I realistically am in this disease. And realistically, I'm not in a good shape. I am progressing. There are a lot of things that I have to just deal with. There are a lot of things that are my new normal. And that's hard to hear. And so I left my appointment yesterday and I called my best friend, my aunt, and I just let it all out. And it's about 24 hours after, and obviously I'm not still back to normal, so to speak, but I told her how scared I was. And I told her that I don't like looking into a future that may not be as bright, to a future that this may be the best I ever feel, and how scary that is, and how scary for some of us to have to deal with unknown futures. And a lot of things going on yesterday and today. I'm still obviously a little bit weepy about it, and I'm gonna suck it up and put my big girl pants on, and I'm gonna continue to fight. But it's okay to have a moment where you're scared to death. It's okay. It's okay to feel like you're trying to stop a train with one finger. It's okay to feel like mad. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be scared. But it's not okay to let those emotions take over and not live my life the way I want it to be. And so I will keep fighting. I will keep chugging forward. I will have many more days like this. I will have days where I feel like I can keep going on, and I will have days where I wonder what tomorrow looks like, and that's okay. And that's what we're talking about on this episode.
So, wow, that was I said that was that difficult for you to share that without feeling completely vulnerable, putting that out there in the world?
I think that the idea going into it was, I'm just going to get it all out. I knew we were going to be recording this episode, and I definitely felt like I was going through the ringer. And so doing it was just a release. I think the scarier part was sending it to you and putting it out there, of sharing it. I think that was harder than actually recording it, because I could record anything and delete it, but I felt like it fit perfectly into the topic that we were going to discuss today. And I knew that I wasn't the first person to leave a doctor's appointment feeling scared and frustrated and all the emotions that can come with that. So, I hope it's received well. It's not easy to put it all out there, but I know that many of our listeners have gone through the same thing. So that's kind of what we're going to discuss today. So here I am. It's probably been 4 days maybe since I recorded that. And the other reason that I wanted that I recorded it was because I knew talking today about it is, I'm going to go back to, it was no big deal, and kind of frosting it all up and making it look pretty. And I wanted to express like my true emotions of how I was feeling in that moment, and not being able to process everything and then present it in a nice little bow that makes me look good and or whatever it might be. But yeah not the
and first. I think that's important for other people to see in general. I remember when I was going through my all my cancer journey, and initially I was only sharing like my positive, upbeat mindset, and I think part of that was also to convince myself to stay positive, and by putting it out there, and but then I realized I would start noticing that other people who were going through something, a diagnosed cancer or fibromyalgia, some type of diagnosis, and they were like, oh, but mine isn't as bad compared to other people, and they're so positive, or it's nothing compared to what Tina's going through, and she's always so positive and upbeat. And that was when I realized that I wasn't helping anybody, truly helping anyone, with only letting them see my positive mindset. And that was when I started opening up and sharing the times that I would struggle as well, because I don't want you don't want other people feeling like they're doing something wrong, or their feelings aren't valid because they see other people not thinking that way. So
talk a little bit about the emotional roller coaster. I mean, you were right in, how long were you like really in the midst of your cancer where it was chemo and it was, a lot of all of that? What span of time was that?
Well, yeah, it's crazy when you think about it because it seems like it went on forever,
Mm-hmm.
but the bulk of all the hard stuff, when you think about it, is I was diagnosed in May of 2018. Um, I think I started chemo within 3 weeks, and I remember being in the moment of thinking everything was just taking too long. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's taking too long to know how we're treating, how we're going to approach it and things. And in the grand scheme of things, it really wasn't. So I did, in chemo from June to September was chemo, and then I was done. And then October was when I had my surgery to have it removed, the kidney removed and the lymph nodes. And then late November was when I started the immunotherapy, which was, that was like a piece of cake compared
Mm-hmm.
to all the other stuff. And then, and that was when November to 4 years of chemotherapy, or I mean, immunotherapy, that I was on. So really, like the hard part was more, I would say probably a year, because it did take, it still saps your energy and
Yeah.
takes a while to feel like you're recovered, from all of that.
So
Um,
how did you deal with, did you have a lot of ups and downs, or
I
walk us
definitely
through
had a
like,
lot of, yeah, definitely more, yeah, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of frustration. Um, and again, like I said, like just the not knowing part was hard, where, it's like, okay, I'm not fitting the norm of any of this that I'm going through. So I was a mystery of, they didn't know the best approach of, do we remove the kidney first and then go through chemo? Do we do chemo and then remove the kidney? The kidney's not functioning. So it's, the tumor, the mass was blocking the kidney. So it wasn't even working. So they didn't know which way to go. And that was just hard. I always say that looking back, I feel like my anxiety went down quite a bit once they figured out how we were approaching it.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then also it was like night and day, not completely night and day. Both of my main doctors, I had a urologist because it was kidney related, and then I also have my oncologist, and both of them have different mindsets where, one of them was very cut and dry. These are the facts. This is really bad. This is not good. And then the other doctor I'd be like, so what if this doesn't work? Well, we're not going to think about it that way. We're not, no negative thoughts, no possibility of, we're not going to think that it might not work. We're going to keep happy thoughts. And I'm sure in the back of that doctor's mind, I have no doubt, looking back now, I've been, seeing that doctor for 6 years now. That I think that they had, I have no doubt that they had some ideas of where they were going to go if it didn't work, but it was just that they were very determined to not let my brain go down that, which
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it was also frustrating, because it's like I need to know the battle plan. Like once I knew the battle plan, my anxiety got much better.
Mm-hmm. And I think, what I expressed as far as how my appointment went, my doctor's always been kind of like, tell it like it is. This appointment was a little bit more of like, almost to where I'm not even going to try and help you, because you're just in this, this is what it is. And what do you expect me to do? So how do you think having two doctors with two different delivery ways of delivering information, how that affects like your mental state? Because my mental state going out of that appointment was very defeated, very much of, she's giving up on me and there's nothing I can do about it, and this is my life and all of that. So you kind of had both ends of the spectrum. How do you think they affected like your mental state?
I think that I honestly feel like the one that didn't want to give me the hard facts affected my mental state more
In a
because I
negative way?
wanted, I think, I think that the one that didn't want that had the more like, we're not going to think those negative thoughts, I think actually bothered me a little bit more of like, I needed to know, I didn't want to be going to Google the facts because I wasn't getting the information from the person that was treating me. I needed to know these answers. Um, where, I mean, the other one that was, pure factual, it wasn't like, I didn't feel like they were giving me a death sentence, so to speak, but they were saying, look, this isn't good. But I remember also, part of that fact was that they were normally this, you don't even fit the demographics of this type of cancer. It's usually 70-plus-year-old men that have been smoking all year, all their entire life, not a, you know, 49 at the time, 49-year-old woman that's never smoked. And so I think knowing those facts made it easier for me to say, okay, well, yep, I appreciate that these numbers are not, it's not good. But at the same time, I also know, I recognize by you giving me those numbers, I don't fit into those demographics. So if I don't fit in the demographic of this type of cancer to begin with, I'm refusing to fit into the demographic of the prognosis of it.
That's a good way of thinking of it. I feel like sometimes, as you're talking, I was like, well, it also depends on the mental state of the patient, because you seem to have like a positive outlook or positive energy taking the news from the doctor, versus if you were really struggling and really mentally having a hard time, then it might have been a lot harder to hear the information. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Mindset is so, so important. And I unfortunately I feel like in the situations when you start dealing with these medical professionals that specialize in these particular illnesses, that they're, especially when you're looking at the ones that are, out there, one of, part of the top of the game type thing, is that you go there because they're so well versed in treating that condition. But I also feel like it's not an uncommon situation where they get so hyper focused on treating the condition that they forget that they're treating a person.
And that there can be things outside of the box.
Yeah, there needs to be kind of a middle ground of little bit better beds. I definitely feel like some professionals out there could benefit from a little bit more softer bedside manner. Yeah. And it's not saying don't sugarcoat it and don't downplay what's going on, but how you deliver that news definitely can impact the mindset of the patient.
Yeah. I agree. I was doing a little bit of research in preparation for, talking about this, and I came across some different, what they consider quote unquote common emotions to feel. And these are some of the ones that I thought were interesting. Talking about the feelings that you go through as you're dealing with chronic illness can be grief and loss, fear and anxiety, isolation and loneliness, anger and frustration, guilt and shame. Those are some that I picked out. But for me, I think definitely the grief and loss is one of just grieving the things I used to be able to do especially with my kids. And, but recently I think fear and anxiety have kind of come in a little bit, just because there's no clear path for MS progression, and, worrying about, what my future looks like and how quickly it can progress. And that's definitely something that's been a little bit on my mind more recently. Are there any of those that you felt going through your cancer journey?
Yeah, definitely. I can't even say I would say fear, but like even just looking back, I don't feel like of course I was scared, but that was one that I just I didn't let take hold to. I fought hard to not let it take hold of me, because I also feel like a lot of those your thoughts have power. So if you get yourself too locked up into that, then in these thoughts that you can, there's you're giving your body, it's given that disease more power. Guilt for me, not so much. Well, a little bit guilt because of the time where I didn't have the ability to take care of the household and keep things running the way I usually do. But also mostly guilt of, for me, it's definitely more of a survivor's guilt, because I've lost a lot of friends even since my diagnosis, quite a few friends from cancer or other illnesses. And it's a tough one to maneuver through when you kind of wonder, okay, when you're looking at, okay, I beat something that I was given a 14% chance of beating, and other people who should have had a better opportunity, and I know everybody's journey is different, so it's hard but that's definitely a hard one to stave off every time.
Seeing somebody lose their battle with a cancer that maybe was more had a better outlook. Is that what you're?
Yeah, a little more treatable or less. Not quite as a dire statistic.
Yeah.
But again, you just have to remind yourself everybody's journey is different, and there is a reason, even if we don't know it.
Yeah.
In that situation.
What are some ways that that you coped with the times that you were down in the dumps or having, hard mental days? What are some things that helped you?
For me, it was definitely, I wanted to escape into nature, escape into the woods. Did a lot of meditating, but for me, mostly it was, even if it was just, even when I was going through my chemo and I didn't really have the energy to do much, there's actually a tiny little path that goes through a small patch of woods right next to our house. And so I would grab one of the dogs and just, take 10 minutes to walk up the path and back, just to feel like I was connecting. Like for me, nature has always been very calming. And so that was and still is my big escape. And when I'm feeling stressed or, that's always been my go-to. It's almost like my body starts craving it, and it's like, okay, you need to get outside and reground yourself.
I knew that was that your answer would be somewhere in nature or mindfulness, in that area, because I know how much that helps.
Yeah, it does. And how about you?
I don't know. I know what's worked for me in the past. I've done therapy. I've done support groups. Ed and I went to a support group every month, and then we moved and just got out of the habit of going or finding a support group that was closer. I haven't done therapy in about a year. So that's worked for me in the past. I think sometimes it's the quiet time that I need. It sounds silly to, the people who deal with chronic illness with kids and they're running, I complain that, I'm tired because of the dogs and letting them in and out and feeding them and doing all of those things. So 7:00 hits and I'm like, see you later. I'm going to the bedroom. I'm going to put on TV. You take care of the dogs. And I just kind of have an hour or so of just quiet time just to relax and not have to worry about anything and give my body some rest. But I definitely feel like just the way things have been going, therapy, going back to my therapist might be something in my future.
They're out there for a reason. It's a tool to use that, So we asked this question on Instagram. You posted that question. How do you handle the ups and downs of chronic illness? So we had a few responses. Highland Cat FM says, I don't, with a laughing emoji. So that's, and I can definitely see where it can be, where you feel overwhelmed and you're like, I'm not managing, I'm not maneuvering this. So at least they recognize that. And then KJ5 McCarthy says, spoiling myself to find the joy or bringing joy to others, which I get a lot of joy of bringing. Like, that's one thing I love with my crafting is I like creating things that I know make other people happy. And you had another one that chimed to share.
Aligned Kate, who is one of our Spoonies from season 1, said, I go to therapy and I talk it all out and I have a good cry. And I love the fact that the responses that we chose were completely different. But I think I can relate to all of those. There are times where I'm just like laughing through the pain and finding purpose and doing something for somebody else. So I think all of those responses are just great examples of being able to maneuver through this beast we call chronic illness. Are we ready to bring in Charu?
Yeah, let's bring her on.
Okay. While you're on your phone, come on, I know it's in your hand. Head on over to SpoonFull of Strength's Etsy shop at spoonfulofstrength.etsy.com. That's spoonful with 2 L's. We have a wide variety of t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, mugs, and so much more. Anything in the shop can be customized based on your illness. We have sizes from extra small to 5X and many colors to choose from. The best part is most items ship within 2 business days. So head on over to spoonfulofstrength.etsy.com. Join Spoonful of Strength on Instagram, a community open to everyone. Whether you have a chronic illness or support someone who does, you are welcome at Spoonful of Strength. You'll get preview clips of the upcoming episodes and insight into my world as a Spoonie. That's Spoonful of Strength, spoonful with 2 L's, on Instagram. Well, thank you, Charu, for being here today. We're really excited to talk with you. How we normally start out our episodes is just to ask that you just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you do, anything that you think the listeners might want to know about you.
Okay, sounds good. My name is Charu. I am living in the San Francisco Bay Area, moved here with my husband in 2011, and we've been here since. I have 2 little girls. One is 4, one just turned 8 last week. And I'm here to share my story of the 2 autoimmune liver conditions that I'm navigating through. So excited to share the story of my diagnosis, the challenges I face, things like that.
We're excited to hear more about it. I don't think either one of us, I think Tina has a tie to somebody with autoimmune hepatitis, but it's new information for me.
It's pretty rare.
Yeah, I know that is different. But excuse me, I have not heard of the PBC, the primary biliary
Cholangitis.
Yeah. What does that involve?
So, like I said, both my autoimmune conditions are of the liver. Apparently, I have a genetic predisposition towards these, is what my hepatologist, which is a liver specialist, that's what she thinks, even though no one else in my family has ever had a liver disease or been diagnosed, at least, that I know of. PBC stands for Primary Biliary Cholangitis, and it's basically when a person's immune system becomes overactive and attacks their healthy bile ducts and eventually destroys them. And bile is basically what helps us with digestion of food and breakdown of fats, right? So when this bile builds up, because the bile ducts have been destroyed, it starts to damage your liver further. And if it goes unchecked, eventually all that scar tissue that ends up in the liver due to the damage makes the liver just stop working. It doesn't function properly anymore. And that stage is called cirrhosis. That's the end stage of the liver disease. And at that point, you have the option to get a liver transplant. But even after a liver transplant, PBC may reoccur, even in the healthy liver. So that's PBC in a nutshell. And the treatment for this right now is through medicines, which basically move the bile out of the liver into the small intestine. And of course, preventative stuff like not drinking alcohol, not taking any supplements or herbal stuff without consulting your liver specialist in case it's, harmful to your liver, and whatever you can do to best prevent cirrhosis from happening over time.
Mm-hmm. So what were the first signs that maybe something wasn't right?
So with PBC, it was kind of a surprise to me. I almost thought they made a mistake, that, I don't have any symptoms of liver disease is what I thought. But basically, in 2014, before I had my first daughter, they told me I have non-alcoholic fatty liver, and to, avoid drinking alcohol and exercise, lose weight, eat healthy, things like that. And so I guess something had been going on in my liver for a while, and that non-alcoholic fatty liver became a non-issue eventually. I lost weight, and then of course I gained weight when I got pregnant in 2016. And they were keeping a track of my liver enzyme numbers through blood work all this while. And in 2018, 2 years after I had my daughter, things were trending upwards, and my primary care doctor basically became concerned that something's going on. This doesn't seem like non-alcoholic fatty liver. We need to investigate further. And so I went through a bunch of blood work, because as a child, I've lived in various countries. I lived in Egypt, I lived in Japan. They thought, maybe it's a parasite called schistosomiasis or something like that, because you lived in that region, or it could be so and so and so and so. So they investigated for about a month. It wasn't a very long process, luckily for me. And they eventually narrowed it down to, it's something to do with the liver, and we want to do a needle biopsy in the liver to check what's going on. And that's when they figured out, okay, it's something called PBC, which I had obviously never heard of. So I would say that the only symptom I had was fatigue, major fatigue, which I attributed to, I'm a mom of a little kid. All moms are tired. I'm tired too. But at the same time, now that I look back, I think, all the moms around me were doing so much more, and I just wake up exhausted, even after a good night's sleep. And when they diagnosed me, they asked me, are you facing any itching in the extremities of your, limbs? Because that's a big sign of liver disease. And I said, no, I don't have any kind of itching, nothing like that. So immediately they did start me on medicines. They, told me some precautionary stuff that the medicine itself might cause a little bit of itching. Try not to take hot baths, take lukewarm showers. If it's really bothering you, don't shower every day. Use really mild soap, use really mild skincare products, things like that. So, so I would say that I was a bit shocked by my PBC diagnosis. I had, other than the fatigue, no major symptoms at that time.
So was it found just by routine blood work? I know, like when you usually just checking your liver enzymes and all the other.
Yes, I think that's where I got lucky. I'm not really sure when they even started checking my liver enzymes. It was somehow part of routine care for me to get them checked. And I have a feeling it started when I moved to the US, and they had basically a full body checkup done when I moved, just because they had no baseline. So they just started with a full body checkup. Liver enzymes were tracked, and they just got tracked ever since. So the issue that I faced with PBC in terms of itching was when I got pregnant with my second daughter. Soon after being diagnosed with PBC, we had basically been trying to have, we wanted a second baby. And as soon as I found my liver specialist, I spoke to her and I said, hey, is it safe for me to get pregnant having PBC? Is it of concern to me or my child? And they said, as long as we monitor you and you come in for routine blood work and we can work with your OBG team, it's absolutely safe. You can go ahead. And so I did. And my pregnancy was high risk, and it was extremely difficult because I developed extreme itching to the point that I basically did not sleep from month 5 of month 8-ish, when they had to do an early C-section to get her out, because there's a condition that some women get called ICP. I believe the full form is intrahepatic cholestasis of pregnancy. It's a liver condition, and it causes buildup of bile acids in the body during pregnancy. And because of that, it can cause severe itching. So in my case, because I already had PBC, they were just never sure throughout my pregnancy, is it this ICP that's causing my severe itching, or is it my liver disease? Although my liver specialist felt like it was just hormonal changes due to the pregnancy and not my liver disease getting worse. But because nobody had any way to know, I had a very, very stressful time wondering if my liver disease is impacting my baby. Of course, the sleepless nights didn't really help, because the kind of itching that you get with liver disease, it's not surface level, it's almost in your blood. And there's really nothing that helped me. No medicines helped me, no topical stuff helped me. I would just break down at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. and just cry because I was completely exhausted and I wouldn't be able to sleep. So that's the time when I felt the true impact, I guess I would say, of the liver disease that I had. But and because of that, we had to have an early C-section at 37 weeks. That's just the safest thing to do for the baby. And luckily, my daughter's healthy. She's 4. She didn't have any issues. So I'm really happy about that. But that was a really stressful pregnancy for me. And that's when I felt the true impact of itching, and I hope it never returns, because that was really rough.
Miserable. Yeah. Especially being pregnant and probably being uncomfortable, with being pregnant anyway, then to have that on top of that, I think I would just go crazy.
I almost did. Plus you have to take care of your older one. This was my second pregnancy, right? So I can't just neglect my older child, and she was 3, so she had needs too. So it was difficult. I'm really glad my husband is really, really helpful, really supportive. So yeah, we managed somehow.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
everything after the pregnancy, it ended up being that
It ended
was
up
pregnancy
being
related.
okay. My liver numbers were not doing great right after giving birth. My liver specialist felt like it's also something to do with the weight gain impacting my hormones, impacting my liver disease. So I made the difficult decision after the first few months of breastfeeding to stop breastfeeding because I am the type of person who loses zero weight. In fact, I gain weight when I breastfeed. I am extremely hungry. And so I was really struggling. And this was my second daughter was a COVID baby. And my liver numbers were not doing great. And my doctor felt like I might need to go in for a drug trial for something new that they were trying out to get it under control. And she said that, let's try our best to avoid that by losing weight, because I have a feeling that this has something to do with it. So she recommended that instead of going on any kind of specific diet, that I try intermittent fasting, that I eat healthy, I eat whole foods, but I try intermittent fasting, and maybe that'll help. And indeed, she was right. The weight loss did help. It did start to bring my numbers back down. And I did not have to end up going for that drug trial because it kept getting pushed and pushed due to COVID in any case. And by the time it was available to me, my numbers were basically not meeting the threshold. They were lower than that. They have not come back fully within range, even despite the medicines that I'm on, because basically in 2022, I was diagnosed with my second liver disease, which was autoimmune hepatitis. So autoimmune hepatitis is basically when the immune system attacks the liver and it causes the liver to get inflamed. And in my case, it was possibly drug-induced, is what my liver specialist thinks, because I was given antibiotics from my dentist due to a tooth infection a month before all of this occurred. And my numbers had been checked. Everything was, trending in the right direction. And because of this particular antibiotics that I was given, suddenly my numbers jumped up. And this time I did have symptoms, which I thought was basically a stomach bug, because for over a week I was extremely nauseous. I was exhausted. I couldn't tolerate food and water. I lost a bunch of weight, and I thought that I'd eaten something bad. But when I saw that nobody else in the family was getting this, I got a little bit suspicious. And I went to my primary care, and she was smart to test me for stomach bug. But also she felt that I should get my liver numbers checked just in case, even though it had just been done recently. And that was the right call, because they were so high that the moment I saw them, I knew something was wrong. She usually contacts me through the app, but she called me and she said, "Hey, you need to get in touch with your liver team. Something's going on here." And my liver team is at Stanford. I have an amazing doctor, amazing team. They were super proactive. They immediately called me. They said, "Hey, something's going on in that region, possibly with the liver. We need you to check into emergency right away." And so I basically, luckily the kids were in school. My husband dropped me to emergency, went back to take care of them. And I spent around 3 days in emergency care. They ran through a bunch of tests. They ruled out hepatitis A, hepatitis B, all kinds of viral infections, COVID, pregnancy, just basically ruling out all the things that might impact liver enzymes to go high like that. And they did an emergency needle biopsy. And in that, they confirmed that my liver was extremely inflamed, and to the point I was getting upper right quadrant pain because it was pressing on my gallbladder. And so they started me on prednisone, which is a steroid, to calm down the inflammation right away. And I was on it for several months. After that, the joys of prednisone, as many people know who have an autoimmune condition. And eventually they tapered me off to 2 different immunosuppressants that I'm on right now. They're a little more targeted towards the liver, so not as many side effects as prednisone, but there are definitely long-term side effects and other day-to-day stuff that I deal with because of that. So yeah, that's liver numbers are still not within range, working towards a healthy range, but at least it's all diagnosed and there's a treatment plan in place.
Is it normal for somebody that has one liver issue to develop a second one?
So I'm part of 2 Facebook groups for my specific liver diseases, and it helps me learn what other people are going through, because it's hard for the doctor to say what's normal and what's not. There are definitely overlaps, but the particular overlap that I have is pretty rare. It's it says in 1 to 3% of cases is what I read, where PBC is overlapped with autoimmune hepatitis. But on those Facebook groups, I have encountered a bunch of people who have multiple autoimmune conditions together. So, yeah.
So I know when you're dealing with liver disease, and like you said, with the hepatitis, the big changes of no alcohol, changing in diet, were those changes difficult for you, or were you already, it's no big deal, I'm already trying to eat on that healthier pathway?
I would say that with PBC, I wasn't impacted as much. I did, of course, completely stop drinking. I wasn't a big drinker in the first place, so that was easy for me. But with autoimmune hepatitis, I'm not sure if it's entirely the condition itself or the number of medicines I'm on right now combined, because I end up taking 13 pills and 7 supplements a day to function normally. So it's a lot on my digestive system. I deal with major digestive distress ever since I was diagnosed with autoimmune hepatitis, to the point that for the first few months, I was afraid to leave the house in the morning hours because the medicines were just, I don't know what they were causing in my stomach. I was having to take anti-diarrhea medicine almost every day or every other day. So I had a lot of digestive upset while getting used to the amount of medicine that I was on. Even now, that is the case. Like, I am taking the anti-diarrhea medication at least once a week. I have, through trial and error, learned that I do best with a really low fiber diet. There's very few vegetables that suit me, whereas I was a huge salad eater before this. Now I'm pretty much limited to carrots, potatoes, peas sometimes. Protein is fine, so that's good. And I have become completely gluten intolerant, which was not the case till a few years ago. I was able to, my body didn't love gluten, but I was able to go outside and eat normally with my family. Now I don't eat anything at the kids' birthday parties. I pack my own food. So it's a whole different thing digestively for me after autoimmune hepatitis. In recent months, because it's really difficult to, go out with kids and do stuff if you can't eat anything. So one of the things I've incorporated is a probiotic and prebiotic into my diet called Seed, and it's made a huge difference. I think that's why I'm able to reduce my anti-diarrhea medicine. So clearly there's something wrong with the gut. There's some kind of dysbiosis that has occurred, and the probiotic has definitely helped me with that. So I'm glad I incorporated that. Other than that, fatigue is obviously a big part of autoimmune conditions, various conditions, right? So fatigue is huge. There are days when, despite 8 hours of sleep, which I always aim for because I can't function without it, still I'm not able to get through all the things I need to do. And with 2 little kids and all their extracurriculars and all the stuff that you need to do as a mom, I can't really skip on their stuff. So I end up skipping on mine. I end up skipping my self-care, or at the moment, I am not able to work because my aim was to set up my own practice. I'm an interior designer by training, and I was working with architecture firms before both my kids were born. And I opted out of it thinking that I would like to set up my own practice, and I don't want to commute and work for somebody else for 10 to 12 hours a day. I want to set up my own thing and have control over my hours, which is even more pivotal now with my health being the way it is. But it's been a struggle. It's slow going, trying to set up my website, trying to set up my business, because there are so many medical appointments. I have monthly blood work. Thank God it's monthly now, because it used to be weekly, because that's how close they needed to monitor my liver numbers initially. Along with just the liver numbers, all of these medicines have long-term risks. So I do need to get skin cancer checks. There's a risk of lymphoma, so I need to get regular eye tests. I need to be up to date with all my boosters because I'm on immunosuppressants. I catch all the colds that my 4-year-old brings in, all the coughs. So low immunity is a huge thing. It impacts the quality of your life and what you can do, right? PBC comes with a long-term risk of osteoporosis. So I do get regular DEXA scans done to check my bone density. And because of that, I've also started to incorporate strength training with a trainer, because it's important for me to maintain healthy bones over time. So yeah, these are some of the challenges that I face.
Yeah. How are you doing mentally through all of this? It's hard enough. I don't want to say lucky enough, but my chronic illness kind of came as the kids were getting a little bit older and more self-sufficient. But how do you handle it mentally as a mom of young kids and just dealing? I have digestive issues as well, and it's the most frustrating. Like, walk us through like your mental health.
That is a huge piece of the puzzle that I had to work on. I had to, firstly, I'm really lucky to have a very supportive husband. He is my listener. He is the only one who's basically by my side. He's seen me go through everything. He's always there. I have a very supportive family overall. I'm able to talk with them about the stuff that I'm going through. I don't think anybody fully understands what you're going through, and I'm sure everybody with an autoimmune condition knows this, but I have a very supportive group of friends and family around me, so I'm lucky. But you still have to deal with that mental struggle. I mean, just Googling the lifespan of a person with PBC and autoimmune hepatitis, it's depressing. So I went through all of this. The first, I would say the first year of diagnosis was extremely difficult for me. And that's one of the reasons why I ended up creating a separate Instagram account, which you found me on. And it's how we found each other, because I was really struggling to find community. I don't have anybody around me who has the same condition as me. I also don't have anybody around me who's, able to basically, people don't share their struggles, right? So you feel a little lonely as a person with autoimmune conditions. And I think everybody goes through that if you have any kind of medical condition. So one thing that I did was create that account to connect with other people to see, how are they coping? What are they going through? And I think that support is really important. And the second thing is I have to meditate. I have to do it every single day. And I am a very scatterbrain, go, go, go personality. And I've had to just basically calm my system down. I started with like zero training in meditation. I started with 1 minute a morning because that's all I could afford as a mom of two little kids. But I tried to make it a habit. I said to myself, I have to do it for 1 minute every day as soon as I get up. And if I can't even incorporate that, then, so I'm doing something wrong. And eventually I elongated that to 3 minutes. I used an app called Insight Timer because, like most women, I have a lot of thoughts. I have a hard time controlling them, and it's hard to quiet your mind. So having an app guide me through meditations and somebody speaking to me through my headphones really helped me calm down. That's been super important for me. And now I've incorporated 10 minutes in the morning. I wake up early for that. I wake up around 5:30, depending on how I'm feeling, just so that I get that quiet time to myself to process everything. I journal in the morning as well. That's been huge for me. And I've also I have just had to accept that I can't do everything. I have to let go of certain things. And that's the difficult choice when you have an autoimmune condition. You have to accept it, and you have to keep catching yourself from doing too much, because you know that if you do too much one day, you're going to suffer the next. So you kind of have to slow yourself down. And so it's a push and pull. I'm still working on it. I start the energy struggle. I think that movement helps. For a long time, I would just give in to the fatigue. And now I'm kind of like a body in motion stays in motion. So I really try to keep myself active. I try to walk my kids to school at least part of the way if I can. I'm active around the house with everything that I need to do. I strength train twice a week. I try to keep myself active. And of course, it was a big struggle initially. I would have no energy left after these workouts to do anything except for the basics. But I feel like over time, it's given me energy back. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
I think a big part of all the self-care, the meditation, and your working out and those things, do you feel that has helped you become more aware and in tune with your body, so that you are like, oh, okay, I'm going to start the day. What am I going to be able to do today?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. I have a very specific way of journaling now where I write down a few thoughts that are swimming in my head. I write down a few things that I'm grateful for every morning. And then I write down a few priorities. And I try to keep my priority list to 3 things. I try really hard not to go over that, because as a parent, as is, a bunch of things crop up, unexpected things. So the longer your to-do list is, the more disappointment you're going to face at the end of the day, and you're going to feel exhausted. So yeah, I think that it has absolutely helped. And it's basically my accountability partner, right? I'm doing it every morning. So I look at my list and I'm like, okay, I got my priorities done yesterday, so I should feel proud. Even if I got 2 out of 3 done, I got something done. So I shouldn't feel bummed out about the one thing that I didn't get done, because I needed that rest in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. And, I've been stalking your Instagram a little bit just to get to know you a little bit, but you do show, you working out and things like that. And I think that's great to see. And I love that you created that account so that you could find the community that could be there for you when you're going through a rough time or whatever it might be. Your Instagram is a.spoonful.of.joy, a spoonful of joy. Yeah. And we will make sure and tag that in the description so that people can link right to it and find you. And I think a spoonful of joy, you've just been a joy to be on here. I have definitely learned a lot about these liver diseases and autoimmune diseases. We just can't thank you enough for being on here today to talk about your PBC and your autoimmune hepatitis. And you're in the group now. You're in the Spoonful of Strength group. So we'll make sure and keep you in our thoughts and our prayers, and make sure that we stay connected to you so that we can see how you're doing going forward.
Thank you. I love it. I'm loving being part of a community because I was lonely for so long.
Yeah. It is definitely great for the soul, I think.
And I just wanted to say I love the episode on meditation and mindfulness. I listened to that.
Was Tina.
I loved it. Yes.
Yeah.
I think it was really helpful.
I was her student.
Very important.
So yes, that was of
your self-care.
Yeah. That was a great episode. Definitely.
Yeah. Thank you. It was so nice meeting you guys.
It's nice meeting you
well,
too.
Take care, Charu.
Take care. Bye.
Yes.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
What an amazing individual with Charu. We just appreciate her coming on so much to talk about her PBC, her primary biliary cholangitis, and her autoimmune hepatitis, and definitely appreciated hearing her story. And I'm glad that we were able to provide some awareness and some information on these illnesses. And we do have another great episode coming next week, a little bit different than what we've done today. We have had a couple people last season that we talked with Chiari malformation, and we had 2 more individuals come forward, and so we decided to do a double episode for our 2 Chiari Spoonies. Just reading their backstory, I feel like we're gonna be able to see 2 women, both with Chiari malformation, with 2 completely different stories, and I think it's going to be interesting to hear them back to back and to be able to see just what a difference an illness can make from one person to the next. So that's going to be an episode we're really looking forward to meeting Joanne and Christina next week. So we will bring that to you. We hope that you have a great week, and we will talk to you next Tuesday. Take care. Don't forget to follow the podcast, click on the bell to receive notifications on new episodes, and give us a rating. Feel free to send us a comment on the episode you just listened to. Thank you for being a loyal listener.